Welcome, everyone, to Across the Goal Line, episode 51.
Yeah.
Hard to believe, episode 51 already.
1 year in the books.
Yeah, as of Saturday.
That Saturday was when we released our first episode, so the 31st is when we recorded. So this upcoming Friday would be the 1 year anniversary, I guess you could say, of us starting this podcast / radio show / TV show / whatever the hell you want to call it, because we've done audio, we've done video, we've done the whole 9 yards.
Feels like it.
But we started 1 year ago. We previewed WrestleMania. We talked about March Madness, talked some NASCAR, talked some baseball, talked some football, talked a whole lot of stuff because we had a whole lot to catch up on when we first started, because we didn't obviously do anything for the first 3 months of the year last year. So and then we got a little bit of all that today too.
Yeah, we do. We got the Final Four is set in the NCAA tournament as the...
And I got all 4 final teams right too, by the way.
Obviously.
No, I didn't.
Hardly anybody did, I'm sure.
Didn't get one damn team in the Final Four this year. Normally get at least 1, sometimes 2, but this year I didn't get any.
Yeah, a couple of teams that are pretty much expected to be there, I think, in a way, and then 2 that maybe not so much.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But today we're going to start with some NASCAR. So, Luke, what went down this past week in the world of NASCAR?
Well, they were out in Fontana, out in out in California, there at AutoClub Motor Speedway. Again, I really didn't watch the race just because basketball was on. You had the 2 Elite 8 games on Sunday between South Carolina and Florida, and Kentucky and North Carolina in the later game, both on CBS. Both were great games. Both came down to the wire, and South Carolina and North Carolina moved on, but we'll get more into that here in a second after I get done talking about NASCAR. But I really didn't miss anything, again, for the second straight week, because when I turned it on, there was a caution again. And the first thing they had said was, there's been 4 cautions in the last 20 laps.
Wow.
So I turned it on with probably about 5-6 laps to go, because as I said, I was watching the basketball games. So it was about lap 1, lap 190, 195, because it was a 200 lap race. And it made it real interesting. Do you pit? Do you not have to pit? Because with all those cautions that came out, do you pit now? Do you pit a little bit later? Do you hope for another caution? Pit then?
And of course, what can you do on the restart?
Exactly. And some people
bunching up with guys.
Yeah.
Also,
some people did get a good restart. Some didn't. It happens all the time. It's just depending on how the car is running. To be honest with you, and really who the driver is, if he's experienced in these situations, or is he not? And then, they ran a couple more laps. Then another caution came out. So that same question did come up. Do you pit or not to pit? Kyle Larson did pit. He's one of the hometown kids. And I say he's one of the hometown kids from the state of California. NASCAR has a lot of drivers from the state of California. He did pit in the next to last caution. And Martin Truex did not. He came down pit road, but came right back out on the track right before he would have got penalized, because if you go over that line you got to pit. But he stayed out, did not obviously get tires or fuel, got track position. Larson on the other hand just got 4 fresh tires. He had enough gas to ride into victory lane to pick up his first victory of the year, and he ended up obviously beating out Martin Truex Jr. And Cory gave you the little finger there, a little thumbs up. He did pick Kyle Larson last week on the show, episode 50, so be sure to go check that out if you don't believe us. It's over on YouTube there, or here on YouTube, wherever you're watching us at the moment. But Larson, as I said, he rolled into victory lane. He regained the lead with those 4 fresh tires that Martin Truex Jr. did not have. And as I said, it's first time this year, second time in his young career. He's only 24 years old. which is really, really good for the sport of NASCAR and for him, obviously, for his career. He can race up until he's 50, for God's sakes, or into his 60s. You see some drivers, they do that. And in recent memory, normally drivers, they'll retire 40, 45. When they're getting close to 50, they'll hang it up. And look at Jeff Gordon, for instance. He's in the booth now calling the races, and he's been doing a pretty damn good job since the start of last year. And then, as most people know, he came back out of retirement a little bit to fill in for Dale Earnhardt Jr. last year in the number 88 Chevy, as he had some concussions. But as I said, Larson's young. NASCAR has some other young drivers. Ryan Blaney, who should be able to pick up a victory here soon, could be a favorite this Sunday when they go to Martinsville. Jeffrey Earnhardt, he's the grandson of Dale. He's Carey's son. He's Dale Jr.'s nephew. He's raced, I believe, in 2 Monster Energy now Cup races this season. So he's still young. He could pick up a few victories here hopefully soon. Chase Elliott, obviously, Bill Elliott's kid, taking over for Jeff Gordon, the number 24. And then the Dillon brothers, Austin and Ty, they're the grandson of Richard Childress, who was a great driver. He was also Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s crew chief up until the day he died. Brad Keselowski finished second. It's actually his 4th top 5 finish this season, so he's been having a pretty good season so far this year. Followed by Clint Boyer, who finished 3rd. Martin Truex Jr., who Larson beat out, finished 4th. And then Joey Logano finished 5th to round out the top 5. Now, as I said, they go to Martinsville this weekend, as they've been on the West Coast for the past 3 weeks. They go back to the East Coast, go to Martinsville, a half-mile track, so 500 laps. Sunday, segment-wise, 130 laps apiece for segments 1 and 2, and then 240 laps for the 3rd and final stage. Chevy has the most winners. I believe it's 27 at this track, and I think that tradition is going to keep on trucking down in 11th state of Virginia on Sunday, as I'm going to pick someone who has a total of 9 victories at this racetrack, and that's my favorite driver. I'm going to pick Jimmy Johnson. He's had a tough season so far this year. This past weekend at Fontana, one of his home tracks, he didn't even qualify. He spun out in practice, and they had to use a backup car, and he had to start from the back of the field. Excuse me. So he has 9 wins all time at Martinsville, and his 30 total races there, he has an average finish of 7th. So he's pretty much owned the racetrack and hasn't looked back, if you ask me. So I'm going to take Jimmy Johnson to win at Martinsville. I believe it's the STP 500 on Sunday at 1 o'clock on Fox from Martinsville Motor Speedway in Martinsville, Virginia. And then, if you guys don't remember, go back and listen to all our episodes from, I don't know when I started it. Probably over the summer. It might have been when we first started. I can't remember. That's why I said you got to go back and look. But I kept it going up until the end of last year, and I have not used it this year at all. I still have not been to a NASCAR race, Corey. Mm-hmm. We got to use that hashtag. We got to use that hashtag, get Luke to a NASCAR race. So hopefully by the end of the year, I'll be able to go to a NASCAR race. I know I'll go sometime in my lifetime. I've said this before. I know I'll go sometime. It's just a matter of when. I'm taking Jimmy Johnson, as I said. Corey?
And I will take Denny Hamlin. Didn't work too well last time, though. I think I picked him to win the 500, and he came in it was the one after the 500.
You picked him to win in Atlanta. Brad Keselowski won there. And I believe Denny Hamlin finished like next to last or something. I wasn't doing too good, but now we both have 1 win on the season. I picked Kurt Busch to win the Daytona 500, which I was really shocked that he did win. And then Cory picked Kyle Larson to win this past Sunday at AutoClub. So we both have 1 victory through 5 races now. 6 races this Sunday, as I said, at Martinsville Motor Speedway.
All right. So now let's transition into the NCAA men's basketball tournament, because we are down to the wire now. We have just 4 teams remaining out of the 68 that started the whole thing. And
not 128.
But So the Final Four goes as follows. The East champion is the South Carolina Gamecocks, which is
probably the biggest surprise this year.
Easily the biggest surprise. You're talking about a program that didn't even have really a win in the tournament for a very long time.
Yeah, 1939 was actually the last time they were in the tournament. And obviously this is their first trip to the Elite Eight this past Sunday. And now first trip to the Final Four. I said it last week. Frank Martin, he hasn't got the credit he deserves since arriving in Columbia after getting fired by K-State a number of years ago. But he's in his, I believe, 4th season now with South Carolina, and he's done a fabulous job with Gamecocks. And I think they have a good shot to win against Gonzaga on Saturday night.
Yeah, Sedarius Thornwell for the Gamecocks there. He's been having a great tournament. Yeah. I think someone to keep an eye for the MVP of the Final Four here when
possibly
the Nets get cut down here on next Monday. Here.
Yeah, this Monday coming up.
Yeah, on the 3rd. He'll be taking on another guy who's going to be in that conversation, Nigel Williams-Goss, who's also a Wooden Award finalist, by the way. And he plays for the Gonzaga Bulldogs, who are the West champions, correct?
Yep.
I'm getting my regions right on my bracket in front of me today.
Yeah, out of San Jose.
Yes, and they defeated the Xavier Musketeers, who made a surprise run to the Elite Eight this year as an 11 seed. Very surprising, a little bit, beating Arizona at least. I know we were both a little bit high on them.
I was high on Xavier.
Making a deeper run, maybe not so much Elite Eight possibly, but that magic kind of ran out in that Elite Eight game. They got absolutely smoked by Gonzaga in that game. Not really a contest. And that was kind of a theme for a lot of games here this past weekend. The Sweet 16 Elite Eight games. A bunch of them were kind of blowouts. Some of them were, at least. A couple were pretty close and very exciting, but another half were pretty much blowouts.
Two of the 4 Elite Eight games were blowouts. Oregon just blew out Kansas.
Yeah.
Pretty much in their own backyard. They're only an hour away from Lawrence and Kansas City there in Missouri. And then Gonzaga pretty much blew out Xavier. Speaking of Xavier, I did have Xavier in Arizona in Sweet 16, and obviously had Arizona winning the national championship, so I had them moving on. But I was in the bracket pool, and we had to pick one team seeded 1 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 to 12, and 1 13 to 16. And my 4, were Arizona, Michigan, Xavier, and Bucknell. I obviously knew if both Arizona and Xavier would win, they'd meet up with each other, and I was obviously hoping for Arizona to win, but I was still happy Xavier won because I was still going to get a point for it. But then they obviously got blown out by the Zags, and Mark Few, he doesn't get the credit he deserves either up there in Spokane with Gonzaga. They've been in the tournament, it seems like, every year for the past I don't even know how many years, but they're always an underdog. They're always, because they don't play in a big conference or a small school. That people could say they're a Cinderella team, but how they're a 1 seed again this year with only one loss, losing to BYU, or was it St. Mary's?
It was BYU.
It was BYU. Yes, I thought it was BYU. And so Mark Few, he's done a great job with Gonzaga, but. I'm going to take, for the matchup, I'm going to take South Carolina to go to the national championship game, just because I think they're so hot right now. They upset Duke, was pretty much their first upset, and then they beat, looking at my bracket here,
beat Baylor.
And then they beat Baylor, and then they beat a team they played already this year in Florida, who barely got by Wisconsin.
Yeah.
They beat them on a buzzer beater, actually the only buzzer beater, technically. This year, the one with North Carolina, Kentucky game was with a few seconds left. But I'm going to take South Carolina to beat Gonzaga and go on to the national championship game for the first time ever in their school's history.
All right. In that matchup, it's a tough one because you look at South Carolina, it's that whole team getting hot at the right time situation going on with them.
We see it all the time.
They also have a pretty good player in Thornwell there doing work.
Who could be potentially, if South Carolina wins on Saturday, potentially they win the national championship game. A lot of people are going to know who he is then.
Yeah.
Which, could lead to him going to the NBA and being one of the, I wouldn't say top picks, but a good late first round, early second round pick in the draft come June.
Yeah. But if Gonzaga can play the way they did against Xavier, the way they shot the 3-ball, like making about half, even a little bit more than half of their threes against Xavier, they're going to be hard to beat. I think a factor in that game might be Karnowski, the 7-footer for Gonzaga. I don't know if South Carolina has anybody that can really compete and stop him down low. Yeah. He might be a difference in that game. They might not be able to stop him. They might get into some foul trouble. They're big guys, which will obviously really hurt them. And then they won't be able to stop him at all because they can't foul him because then foul trouble. I think Gonzaga is going to win this game. I think the Cinderella story ends. We see it all the time in Cinderella stories. It normally never ends with them winning the championship and happily later after.
Butler's been the most recent one that's come close. They almost beat Duke.
They're the closest one, at least,
VCU was in the 2011 Final Four down in Houston, and I believe they lost to UConn, who ended up winning the whole thing. But speaking of UConn, they had Kemba that year, and then a couple years later, with Shabazz Napier, they made the same exact run. I believe they were the same seed, and they got hot at the right time, and they just kept pushing. And that's why I think South Carolina is just too hard so I take them over Gonzaga. Gonzaga does have home court, I'd say, because they're on the West Coast out in Phoenix. They don't have to travel as far as South Carolina. South Carolina has to travel the whole way across country, but I'm taking South Carolina. He's going to take Gonzaga that's the left side of the bracket.
Yeah, I just think Gonzaga has maybe a little bit too many weapons, and I think that the magic is going to kind of run out for South Carolina, kind of like it did maybe for Xavier. And ends up, if that happens in Gonzaga, kind of a pretty easy run to the Final Four, you have to say. The toughest team they played was West Virginia on the way in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
A 3-point win.
That is true.
Then they get to play an 11 seed in the Elite Eight, 7 seed in the Final Four.
You go back to that Northwestern game, there was, a lot of people were going to say it was a missed call, a goaltending call that was not called, and the Gonzaga pretty much ran away with it after that. There's about 5 minutes left to go in that game, but other than I say that in West Virginia, they probably had the easiest road because you look at Carolina, they had Kentucky and UCLA in their bracket, in their region. Kansas had Oregon, Michigan, Purdue gave them a little bit of a trouble, but they ran away with that as well. And then with Duke losing, the East just was opened up. I thought Wisconsin would have beat Florida and then ended up beating either Baylor or South Carolina to go to the Final Four, but that obviously didn't happen because they lost on a buzzer beater. But Gonzaga did have an easy run when you look at it.
Yeah, and then we look at the other side of the bracket out of the Midwest. I've already alluded to it already. Oregon did beat Kansas. They crushed them essentially in that game. It was not a really good, well-contested game, I would have to say. Kansas, I don't know. It's just they get to the Elite Eight and then something happens. They can't seem to make it too much further than that. They have on occasion. Bill Self does have a championship to his name, of course, but it seems like that is the kind of like the roadblock for them all the time. I mean, actually, in some recent years, of course, it's been even earlier than that. They've been a high seed to lose really early. They're normally the team that loses early as a high seed, as a 1 seed actually.
It's either them or it seems like Duke.
Yeah,
Duke.
Those are the two teams that seem to disappoint a lot in the NCAA tournament, but at the same time are still wildly successful programs. Of course.
Oh yeah, I mean, because just with all their history, everybody's still going to talk about them. All these players are still going to commit to go play there for whoever the coach may be, and Bill Self or Coach K. Who knows how much longer either of them will be at their respective schools. But Kansas, they got blown out.
Yeah, it was a total mix of
things happening. It was embarrassing because it was pretty much in their own backyard. They're only an hour away from home, so. And to lose to, I mean, Oregon's good, and I think they have a good shot to beat Carolina, but I don't think they will. I think Carolina, going down to the south there, who they beat Kentucky on a last-second shot. I think Carolina. I think we're gonna have a Carolina championship game for the first time ever.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest intrigue of a matchup for the championship. I have to say, if you just look at it at face value, South Carolina, North Carolina.
Hopefully, another civil war doesn't break out, but
I mean,
just because with all the fans, say one fan lives in North Carolina and he's a South Carolina fan, and vice versa. I'm sure there's going to be some tension between neighbors and fans and whatnot.
Perhaps.
But I think that's why I think we're going to get. I think we're going to get a Carolina championship game. Moving on just a tad bit.
Yeah, and then North Carolina beating Kentucky. Probably one of the harder roads, I'd have to say. In North Carolina, at least, because you look at it, Arkansas gave them a lot of trouble. I'd have to say. In the end, they were handling them pretty well.
Yeah,
Arkansas made a comeback there.
Didn't even make a field goal in the last 3 minutes of the game.
And then North Carolina shut them down. Had to play a Butler team who was good, but they didn't really compete too well against North Carolina. They were able to blow past them.
Yeah.
And then they get to play a Kentucky team who took care of UCLA pretty handily, I'd say, at least in the final score showed at least. I think it was about a double-digit win, maybe a high-pointage single-digit win, or something like that. But then Kentucky had a very good team, of course. They always have a great team every year, because they always have a great recruiting class, it seems like.
They have a great coach in John Calipari, that's why.
Yeah, and they always have
he's able to go out and recruit those good players to get them to come to Lexington, make a run in the NCAA tournament, and have a good season as well. They came 2 wins away from going undefeated 2 years ago. Lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four, and then Duke ended up beating Wisconsin in the national championship game. And they almost did that a couple years ago when Coach Cal came to Kentucky after leaving Memphis. Coach Derrick Rose, Bill Self's on a national championship game was against that Memphis team in 2008. I believe he's only had one season he's not made the NCAA tournament. That's when they went to the NIT and they lost to Robert Morris, if I'm not mistaken. But the reason why Kentucky has all these great players is because of Coach Cal.
All right, but then, let me look at this matchup here. North Carolina, Oregon, and...
You did have Oregon in the Final Four.
Yeah, I did, actually. It's going to be a good game. It's probably the better of the two, possibly. At least on paper, of course.
It's the late game on Saturday.
And, South Carolina, you think... obviously, I can see them competing and even beating Gonzaga. I don't think these games shouldn't be blowouts. Hopefully, it's not like last year where you had some blowouts in the Final Four.
Yeah.
Where
Oklahoma got blew out by
Villanova.
Yeah, and then
North Carolina.
Carolina beat.
I don't even remember who it was.
Yeah, we did have but we had a Carolina Villanova championship game, which made up for those blowouts. We had
it was fantastic.
It was, and we had a instant classic pretty much with a game-winning shot by Chris Jenkins, and Villanova getting their first title in 40 years.
But I'm gonna have to go with. I'm going to go Oregon.
You're going to say Oregon and Gonzaga, and I'm saying the opposite. I'm going to say South Carolina, North Carolina.
I'm going to go Oregon in that game because they're another team that's kind of like... They seem to be playing really well. You're talking about... They took out Kansas, who was decimating opponents up until that point, because they crushed Purdue, absolutely murdered Purdue in the Sweet 16. And they were murdering teams all the way through.
They blew up Michigan State as well.
Yeah.
Around before that.
Yeah, by like 20. And then... They absolutely hit a roadblock when they played Oregon.
Yeah.
And Jordan Bell, who got his praises sung a lot in that game there with 8 blocks, really protecting the paint, I think that was a big deal. Of course, Bill Self played it off as it was just us.
Yeah.
Of course, because coaches never seem to admit.
No.
Yeah.
In any sport, they never do.
Yeah. They will give credit where credit is due, but they will not say this one guy was the sole reason why we lost. But nevertheless, the talent on Oregon, you got Dylan Brooks. Dorsey's been playing fantastic. He has been absolutely on fire since going back to the Pac-12 tournament. And he, in the game, dubbed Mr. March. during that game with his amazing play, and then add Jordan Bell to it, Dylan Brooks, all those guys working together. I think it's gonna be a really good game. It's gonna be really hard to tell. I'm just gonna go with Oregon. I know.
I mean, obviously, I'm real excited. The Final Four. I'm obviously excited about every single sport there is. I get hyped up to watch NASCAR. I get hyped up to watch basketball, especially college basketball. I get hyped up, to watch football, so on and so forth. But come tournament time, it's always fun to watch. Games on 24/7. For a 4-day weekend, technically Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then you have your gap there in the middle of the week, and it starts all over again. It's for 3 weeks. The third and final week's this weekend. You get the Final Four, and you got. They're going to be. I think they're both going to be good games. Unlike last year with blowouts and then the championship game being good. Just hopefully we don't get good games in the semifinal games and the national championship game just absolutely sucks. I don't want to see that. But it would be something too if Oregon and South Carolina met up. Both teams haven't been to the Final Four, or South Carolina technically since 1939.
Even
Oregon
tournament.
Yeah.
Winning at least, I guess.
Oregon has not been to the Final Four. They have not won a national championship since the same year in 1939. So going back to the same year, I believe the Wizard of Oz came out.
That would be it.
That's pretty historical, if you ask me. With the two of those teams, two unexpected teams into the Final Four. I'm more of a powerhouse guy, I guess you could say, with all the big, strong power teams, saying like Duke, Kansas, Carolina and Kentucky and whatnot, and say UCLA, throw them in there as well. But I also like a Cinderella story, every couple years. Now, South Carolina, they're part of the SEC. They're not a small school. They're a big school.
Yeah.
But they haven't been good at basketball as a thing.
Yeah.
In,
of course.
How long. So I wouldn't mind seeing a South Carolina, Oregon. I wouldn't mind seeing any of these matchups in the national championship game. Just because I think both games are gonna be good. They're both good on paper. And hopefully, it plays out like that, and we do get a good national championship game come Monday night on CBS. I'll probably end up watching Raw because I think WrestleMania is going to be great on Sunday, especially with NXT Takeover on Saturday night as well. I'll have the basketball games probably on my laptop or tablet, and then I'll probably have Takeover on the TV. I'll definitely have WrestleMania on the TV. You can count that. You can bet that, and then Monday I'll probably have Raw and title games on my laptop or tablet as well. Just because, it's a great weekend again. We said it first episode last year. It was a great weekend because they're both in the state of Texas. WrestleMania was in Dallas, and the Final Four was in Houston. Now they're both on different coasts. Final Four is out in Phoenix. WrestleMania is down in Orlando, Florida, and it's going to be a great weekend, if you ask me. So I'm taking South Carolina, and North Carolina, and you're taking Gonzaga and Oregon. Who are you going to pick to win the national title?
Well, before I say this,
right.
Going back to your whole Cinderella thing.
Yeah.
If you look at other than North Carolina, all of these are technically really a Cinderella because Gonzaga.
Yeah.
They never won
exactly.
a national championship. This is their first Final Four appearance themselves.
Yeah.
North Carolina's the only real experience.
Yeah. I saw a stat. It said Roy Williams has 520 minutes coached in the Final Four, whether he was at Kansas or North Carolina. The other three coaches combined have 0.
Yeah.
So that's saying something.
So yeah,
North Carolina and Roy Williams have the most experience out of any of the 4 teams that are going to be playing on Saturday.
Well, easily, of course. And as a program also, of course. But going back to that, if it was a Gonzaga-Oregon game, it's again, tough one. Give me Gonzaga. Because
take Gonzaga, okay.
I was saying after they I don't know if it was after they beat Xavier or it was after South Carolina had won or after Arizona had lost, one of those things. But I said maybe this is Gonzaga's year. This might be Gonzaga's year because they've been in the tournament so many times. They've been a 1 seed a couple of times as well.
They ended up losing in the Sweet 16 more than likely.
Yeah, so maybe this is their year possibly. It would be a minor Cinderella despite, the fact that they are a 1 seed, 32-4 or 32-1, whatever.
Going into the tournament.
Going into the tournament. So minor Cinderella just as a program's sake, not so much ranking, but I will go Gonzaga in that matchup.
Now, everybody knows I'm a Duke fan, so you have to hate Carolina. North Carolina, that is. Because South Carolina's in the Final Four. I would really, really like Frank Martin in South Carolina to win the national championship. Get my words mixed up. On Monday night. But I have to take Carolina. Roy Williams and them have so much experience. They're in the Final Four last year, lost on a buzzer beater in the national championship game with Villanova. They're out for revenge. So I could take Carolina as much as I don't want to. I'm going to take North Carolina to win. I believe you probably would have beat me in the bracket this year. I mean, technically you didn't fill one out, but by the stuff we had said...
on the show, at least, I had one in our bracket thing that was better than yours. It wasn't exactly what I had said on the show, though, is the thing.
I mean, you did get at least one Final Four team in, and I didn't get any.
Yeah.
If you want to go by that. Now, say we have a South Carolina-Oregon matchup. Who would you take in that?
I gotta go Oregon.
You're gonna take Oregon.
Yeah.
So either. What about South Carolina then? Would you take North Carolina?
I would have to.
So you're gonna take one of the 3 teams other than you're gonna take anybody but Carolina, South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take someone other than South Carolina.
I mean, if Gonzaga gets there, I think that would be a better game, more hell of a matchup against North Carolina. I mean, if I had to rank them, I think Gonzaga, North Carolina, Gonzaga, Oregon, and then probably
Oregon, South Carolina, and then South Carolina, North Carolina.
Yeah. Because if North Carolina plays South Carolina, a lot of people are going to say it's probably going to be a blowout. Just because
those rankings would be based on just face value type stuff. This year, face value of the matchup itself, other than what it might be. Just looking at the 2 teams that are facing each other, type of thing. It's like, you look at it, this shouldn't really be that much of a matchup.
Yeah.
But of course, you look at how they've been playing and stuff like that.
Well, that, and plus it's college basketball. It's the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Anything happens. People get upset all the time. And we go to Final Four now, and it's South Carolina playing Gonzaga, 6 o'clock on Saturday, and Oregon playing North Carolina about 8:45 on Saturday. Both on CBS. Winners will play each other Monday night on CBS at 9 o'clock. And then, as I said, we got WrestleMania this weekend as well.
Yeah.
I got the Hall of Fame on Friday night, normally on Saturday night. Then you got NXT TakeOver Orlando from the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida. And then you got WrestleMania 33 from Camping World Stadium. And we'll be right back. I don't think you have anything else to say. We're done talking NASCAR and college basketball. We'll be right back with our predictions for NXT TakeOver Orlando and WrestleMania 33.